It is a great honor and a privilege to introduce Jacqueline Leader. Your maiden name was Rothschild, and you were born in Antwerp before the war, before the Shoah?
1934.
1934. Can you tell us a little bit about your family?
Nothing special. It was just a family that came from Germany.
And your maiden name was Rothschild, so you're
My name-
related to the Rothschilds from Frankfurt?
Somewhere, but I don't know how. A distant cousin was a cousin of Rothschild.
And your
They
family,
came from Frankfurt.
and they went to Belgium, to Antwerp.
My parents moved to Antwerp, and I was born in Antwerp, but I grew up in Brussels.
And what is your first memories of growing up? What do you recall?
A normal childhood, going to kindergarten, and I had 3 brothers older than I was. I don't remember much before the war.
And why did your parents move from Antwerp to Brussels?
Oh, but because my father was a traveling salesman, and Brussels was closer. Antwerp would take him every day an hour longer to go to wherever he was going. So they moved to Brussels.
And you came from a frum family, a religious family?
Yeah, a religious family from both sides. My father came from Germany, from Frankfurt, and my mother came from Wiesbaden.
And what did you speak at home?
French.
Not Yiddish or?
No, French. My parents spoke sometimes German to each other when they thought that we didn't understand.
And you could understand a little bit?
Yeah, because I had to talk German to my grandparents.
And your grandparents, did they live with you as well? Did they come to
Well,
Belgium?
first they lived in Antwerp, and then when the war started, they moved into our house on the top floor. But they lived separately before.
And Jacqueline, what do you remember when Belgium was invaded or when the war started?
I remember hearing a lot of banging outside, and my mother said, "Hurry, hurry, we have to go down in the basement," and there was bombing going on. And then a day or 2 later we took the car and we went away from Brussels. Everybody ran away because they thought the Germans were coming in, which they were. And after 10 days of running around and a lot of bombing going on, we went to Ostend, which was by the water, where there were boats, hoping to get to England. But none of the boats would take us. And after 10 days we went back to Brussels. By then the Germans were there, and the struggle started, slowly.
And can I just ask, before the war, before the German
Yeah.
invasion, did you go to a Jewish
No,
school or?
No, I went to a public school, and well, I was under 6.
And do you remember having Jewish friends and non-Jewish friends?
No, I didn't even know what Jewish and non-Jewish were. I went to a public school, and life was normal, and there was no Jew hating at that time. The Belgians were pretty good. And a lot of them hit Jews afterwards for money.
Okay, but they also endangered their lives.
Absolutely, 100%. 100%.
And when you came back to your home, and did your parents know that it was very dangerous, that you had to try escape? Or?
Well, during the war I was hidden by Gentiles in the country. And he was the mayor of that small city, and they just said that my parents had adopted a little boy who was a year younger than me. He was 5 and I was 6. His mother was in England. He had no father. somehow, I don't know how they got him. And we had no problems really, but we didn't go to school. We had somebody who came to, a priest who came every day to the house to learn with us.
This is when you were hidden.
Yeah.
So can I just ask you, when your parents decided to take you to the country to hide, did you go with your siblings and with?
No. Two of my siblings were taken already, and the younger one, who was 12, fled away to Switzerland, and somehow he got to Switzerland.
By himself?
By himself.
A 12-year-old?
Hanging onto the back of trains and different things until he got there, yeah.
And how old were you at this time when you were?
I was 6.
And do you remember saying goodbye to your parents, or do you remember your parents taking you?
No, because I didn't know that I was going away. They didn't tell me. I didn't know what was going on.
So where did your parents take you?
A nun came to pick me up. That's all I know.
From your home in?
That nun was a Jewish third cousin who converted and became a nun. And through her, my parents contacted, and she came to pick me up and take me to a monastery or something like that.
Was this in Brussels or in the country?
Out of town. I don't know where it was. And then I didn't see my parents for a year.
When the nun came to take you, do you still remember her coming? Do you have memories of her coming to fetch you?
Yeah. My mother warned me that this nun was taking me.
And was it difficult to say goodbye to your parents?
I didn't know that I was saying goodbye. I don't think I knew. Everything was taken for granted.
Oh, and
I mean, I was only 6 years old.
do you remember her name, the name of the nun? And was she a nice lady? Was she a kind person?
She was an ex-Jew who turned
Who
down.
converted?
Yeah. She was a faraway relative somewhere. That's how my mother got contact of her.
And she took you to the convent?
She took me to a convent, but separated from the other kids. They had me separated because they were afraid the kids might ask me questions or something and tell their parents. So, and my mother had adopted a little boy who was a year younger than me. He was with me the whole time.
So he went with you?
He was 5 when I was 6.
And what was his name?
Shlomo Deshen.
And did the nun take him with you as well? So that was very dangerous because he was...
He was with us for 5 years, and after the war, his mother was in England. Somehow contacted through the Red Cross, found out where her son is, and they got reunited, and he went to his mother in England. But he was with us for 5 years. Before that, he was with his uncle, but the uncle got taken by the Germans.
Did you ever find out why his mother went to England without him?
Because she wasn't allowed to take him.
It's a difficult thing to leave your child behind.
And she had a brother in Brussels, so she sent him to, the brother said, send him to me, I'll take care of him. But the guy was 21 years old, he didn't know what to do with a little 4-year-old kid. So he gave him to my aunt, and she got paid for it, for taking care of him. Then she got taken by the Germans. He got taken by the Germans, and the kid stayed with my aunt, but her husband was taken, her children were taken. So she decided to take a train and to go to the concentration camp. And there she died with them. Because her husband had written a card, it's not so bad here, don't worry about me. She said, it's not bad there, I'm going. And she took a train. She left the little boy with us, took a train and went to her husband. She was very dependent on her husband, and she and her husband, her son, they all died there. Yeah. There are a lot of those stories.
And what happened with your other siblings? Where did they go?
Two of them were on their way to Switzerland, but they got taken in France. But they didn't get sent to the a concentration camp. They got sent to a camp for foreigner, where they didn't kill them there, you know. It was just a camp for foreigner. And the younger one somehow got to Switzerland at age 12 without a ticket, without anything, hanging in the back of trains and stuff like that, from one to the other, and he managed. And my mother had a sister in Switzerland.
And he reunited with your aunt?
She was for 3 days at the train station waiting to see if, and eventually a little boy came down.
And what's your brother's name, the one that went to Switzerland?
Well, his name was Raoul, which is Ralph Rothschild.
And Jacqueline, can I ask, and your elder brother, what happened with him?
What happened to my older brother? Oh, he was first taken in a camp in France because he was born in Germany. So they considered, and somehow he ran away and he ran into Switzerland and he was caught there and put in a camp in Swiss, but they didn't kill him there.
And he stayed there during the war?
The whole war.
That's amazing.
And not only that, but my other brother also got to Switzerland. And he was also put in that same jail or whatever it was. And when they called out Rothschild, they both showed up. They didn't even know they were both there.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And what happened to your parents? Where did they go during the war?
My parents' house survived in Brussels.
They were hidden?
We were all hidden. We were all hidden. In different places.
So Jacqueline, can I just ask you, what is your memories of the convent, or being, what do you recall? Those...
Well, I wasn't directly in a convent, or maybe just a few weeks. It kept me outside, not together with the kids, because the kids might ask me questions and so on. I was with Catholic people. I was with the mayor of the city, and I think my parents paid them. They didn't have any children, and I didn't go to school or anything like that. I had a priest come every day to work with me for 3 hours, but I wasn't together with other children.
And did you go to church? Did they take you to church?
Twice a day I went to church.
Did you have to say the prayers?
Yeah, but I wasn't allowed to get whatever they get in their mouth. Because I was not a real Catholic. I didn't allow them to baptize me. They wanted to baptize me. And somehow, even though I was only 6 and 7, I knew that's not the right thing for a Jewish girl. So I all the time refused. And that's why I wasn't allowed to get that.
That's communion, where they do the wafer and...
Yeah.
And did you make any friends at this time? Did you...
No children friends, no. No, I don't remember meeting any kid.
So what did you do in the most of the day? It must have been...
I had a priest who came every day for 3 hours in the morning.
And what did he teach you?
About Jesus and all that. He didn't teach me ABC.
And he knew you were Jewish?
Yes. And he told me that all about Jesus.
Sure. And during this time, with your adopted brother, did he stay nearby you as well?
Oh yeah, he had to do the same as I did. He was like almost a year younger than me. And
Did you stay together in the same...
yeah, we were together the whole time. And these people who kept us, they didn't have children, so they were very happy to have children.
And were they kind to you?
Very kind to me. Very kind to me.
And did you have enough food, or did you ever go hungry?
No. He was the mayor of the city. No, I never was hungry. Plus it was the country. There were a lot of farmers around. We went around getting milk and butter and stuff like that.
And at this time, did you ever wonder why your parents had sent you away? You're so small.
I don't know. I knew because the Germans were trying to catch us.
You knew that?
I knew that. Yeah.
And were you very scared being...
I don't remember. Children are not scared.
And did your parents ever come and see you while you were with the priest? Or
No.
while you were with the mayor?
No. They couldn't travel.
Did you ever wonder why your parents had let you...
Because they would catch Jews. You were supposed to wear a big star. And sometimes my mother wore it. But as a rule, she didn't always wear it, and she had her hair dyed blonde so that you couldn't tell she was Jewish, because the Belgian people are very light, and the Jewish people sometimes are much darker. My mother wasn't that dark, but somehow she became a blonde during the war. And I don't know everything. I took life, that's the way it was.
And you were there for the whole duration of the war?
Nah, 2 years maybe.
2 years. And then what happened after...
When my parents took me back.
When did they take you back in...
I think my mother came to visit one time. It was very difficult to get there. And when she saw how Catholic we became, and how we, prayed on our high chairs and all that every morning and every evening and made crosses all the time, she told the man who came every month to pick up the money, she said, we can't afford it anymore. We would like to get the children back. So he says, don't worry about the money. My wife is too attached. She's not going to give you the children back. And for about 9 months, he came once a month to tell my parents that we were right. And then he came and he said, you can have the children back. And a nun came to pick us up and to take us back to my parents.
Was it the same nun that took you...
I don't know.
And was this after when the war had ended, or...?
No. We were only for maybe a year or something hidden. Then there was still another year. I don't remember what happened during that year. Of course, we didn't go to school or anything like that. But I know my parents had a roof somewhere in the neighborhood. And somehow they heard, tonight the Germans are going to make a razzia, they called it. So we would all disappear into that room. Nobody would be in our house. But they never came to our house.
And Jacqueline, do you remember when you were reunited with your parents?
Yeah.
It must have been very, very emotional.
I would imagine it was, but I don't remember.
So,
I mean, I was always well taken care of. I don't know, I took life, I guess, for normal to be crazy.
Because it was such uncertain times and such difficult times. And when the war ended,
Oh my God.
do you remember when the war ended?
I remember when the war ended. Oh my God. I remember going to a park in the neighborhood where the American soldiers had settled, there. And I went around asking for chewing gum. I had no idea what chewing gum was. And they all gave me chocolate and chewing gum and Hershey bars. And I came home with so much candy. My parents were really upset. I was like 9 or 10 years old. I had gone there by myself, and the soldiers were very, very nice. I went around saying, chewing gum, chewing gum, chewing gum. And I didn't even know what to do with chewing gum. I would chew it and swallow it, chew it and swallow it. Yep, those were the days.
And your parents, after the war, they stayed in Brussels?
We stayed in Brussels for down to 5 years.
And okay, so after, can I just ask you, Jacqueline, after the war, when the war ended, did your brothers come back
My
from
brothers-
Switzerland? They returned?
Well, one of them said that he was going to go to Israel to fight in the war there. So two of them had, no, all three of them had been in Switzerland. So my parents said, if that's the case, my father said, don't even come home, because your mother's going to be too upset if you come home and then you leave again. So he went straight from Switzerland to Israel in the war. And the other one came home, the other two came home.
And what was it like when you saw them when they came back? It also must have been, you hadn't seen them for
they
so
were
many
like,
years.
they were kind of strangers to, I didn't know them. I was 6 and then I was 10.
But did you develop a closeness with your brothers?
Yeah. Definitely, because I was the little one.
And did your father find work after the war, or was it?
Yeah, well, he went back he was a salesman before, and he sold to shoemakers, laces and leather and soles and stuff like that. And he went on the road, he contacted his ex-companies. They were Germans, and he got back some of he went back into that field, whatever you needed to make shoes, and he went to the factories. That's what he was doing before.
And what did your mother do? Was she mainly at home, or?
She was mainly at home, and then she was a social worker at the Jewish committee. But that was only from the war on. Before that, she was just a mother at home, 4 kids.
And Jacqueline, can I just ask, did you go back to your old house, or?
I went once and just walked by.
But after the war, did that old house remain, or did somebody take it?
Oh, I'm sure people were living in it. My husband even asked me if he wanted to ring the doorbell. I said, no, I don't even want to see the inside. But I have a picture. I was walking by the house.
And
It brought back too many memories.
And when you came after the war, did you rent a new apartment, or did you didn't go back to your old apartment?
I didn't go back to Brussels.
No, but after the war, when you came home.
I didn't go back to Brussels after the war. I was in America. Oh yeah, first I was in Brussels, you're right. And then I went to America. We had to get the papers and all that, took about 5 years. My father had 2 sisters in America. And they sent us the affidavits and all that.
And when did you get to America?
In 49. I went to high school in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
And Jacqueline, if I can just ask, what happened to your grandparents and the extended family in the war?
They lived in our house, and they survived with us. And then when we left, they moved into an apartment somewhere else. And my mother had a sister in Switzerland. And they couldn't get into America because they were born in Poland. And my mother was born in Germany and my father too. So they went with their other daughter to Israel, and they died here.
I said your grandparents came to live in Israel.
First they were in the absorption center for a year, and then they lived
And Jacqueline, when you, after the war in Brussels, were your parents very connected to the community? Did they rebuild the community with the shul?
Yeah, but there was, yeah, but it was not the community from before.
They had to rebuild.
Everything had to, yeah. New people came in, people out of concentration camp and different things, but the real Belgian people, most of them got killed. So.
And did you go to a Jewish school in Brussels?
No, I went to high school, and I went to Hebrew school twice a week, on Thursday afternoon and Sunday mornings.
And how was...
They didn't have a Jewish school.
How was Brussels after the war? It must have been very hard to think that so many people were deported and killed.
It was a very small Jewish community. Very small Jewish community. There were maybe only 4 shuls, and Antwerp was a bigger community.
And your parents didn't want to go live in Antwerp?
I was born in Antwerp.
I know, but your parents, they didn't, after the war, they didn't, because a lot of Jews went back to Antwerp.
Yeah.
And there was quite a big community of survivors that came to Antwerp after the war.
Right, but no, because my father started traveling again, and it was closer. It was an hour closer.
And your parents remained from throughout the whole time? And after the war they were from? They never lost their emunah, or?
No. Maybe they weren't as from as before, because they were Yekkis, so they were very from before. But no, they were from.
And Jacqueline Kimang was being in a Christian Roman Catholic environment. Were you ever, it's a hard question this, but were you ever tempted to...
At first I thought my parents killed baby Jesus. Because they told me before I went home, the Goyim told me that the Jews killed Jesus, so I really thought my parents killed Jesus. But then I must have realized, I don't know what I thought. I was a kid. Everything was accepted. And I had it easy compared to other people. Many of the kids were hidden, but then when they came out, there was no mother, no father, no nothing.
It's amazing that thank God your parents survived. The people that hid your parents, did they, and the nun, the Jews, did any get recognition?
They got recognition and they got paid through the war.
But did they get Chasidei Mot Olam, righteous?
I think so.
But I think because if you were paid, then it's
No, they still didn't get recognition.
And did you ever see the Jewish nun again? Did you ever meet her again, or?
No.
But in a way, she saved your life, in a way.
Uh-huh.
It was very dangerous what they did to take you and your adopted brother.
Yeah. But I wonder how many Jewish nuns there were. Maybe there were a lot of them who hid as a nun. I don't know.
And did you ever go back to the mayor after the war, or did you ever visit the place where you once were?
I went with my husband once, but I didn't want to. He wanted me to ring the doorbell and go into the house and so on. I said, I don't want to. I just walked by the house and I wanted to be away from everything.
Was it too painful? The memories were too painful. Yeah?
I didn't want to think of anything. I even have a picture of me walking in front of the house.
And can I ask you, when did you meet your brothers again that came to Israel? Because you hadn't seen them for the duration of the war.
Well, one brother went from Switzerland and he was going to go to Israel in the army. So my parents said, don't even come home first. And so I didn't see him for 15 years.
15 years, wow.
until I moved to Israel.
You hadn't seen him for it's a long time.
No, maybe a little bit less. I think one time my parents sent him the money for a ticket. By then we lived in America. So maybe it was only 12 years. But I know I was a little kid and all of a sudden I was
And when you saw him
15
again,
years.
was it strange to see him again, or?
For him it was strange. He kept on looking down when I was up. Yeah, for him it was strange, but not for me.
And the adopted little boy who was a year younger than you, did you keep in touch with him through the years?
Yeah, he went back to his mother in England, and then she remarried and had a daughter, and the husband died, and they went to Israel. She and her son went to Israel. The daughter married in England, and they lived here. And then when I moved to Israel, he came to visit me a few times.
Oh, and how was that reunion?
Well, I was a different person.
I know.
You know, there was a little boy that I left, and all of a sudden there was a grown-up there. He died a few years ago. He became a doctor, and he died. He was always kind of sickly, even as a child. And at first he was afraid to go back to his mother, because he didn't know his mother. He was, I think, 1.5 when he left his mother, and now he was 10.5, and he had to meet this strange woman who became his mother. He thought my mother was his mother, you know.
But your parents were remarkable to take him in. It's a big thing what they did. It was it's amazing.
My mother always said that's why we survived, because we had to return the child. She said, we have to survive, we have to return this child to his mother. Somehow she got to England, and she was sending for him, but the day before he was supposed to leave, the war broke out. Yeah. And then that poor old lady, her husband died again, so she didn't remarry a third time.
And Jacqueline, can I just ask, when you came to America and you went to high school, how did you get on with the school children? Could you relate to the American school children? Were you?
I learned how to do that. It was a little bit different, but it was much easier here in America than in Belgium. In Belgium, the learning is harder. I was in the Athénée, which is the college preparatory. I had to learn Latin and Spanish and French and English, all kinds of things. Here you have a choice, you can pick whatever you want in America. But, you know, you want to take math, you want to take geometry, over there you have to take it all.
And did your schoolgirls, did they ever ask you what happened during the war or your background?
Yeah, I had to write compositions for them. I had to speak in school sometimes.
And were they sympathetic when they heard you talk about being hidden in the Shoah, in the Holocaust?
Yeah, I mean, it was all new stuff for them. These kids, they don't know that. Kids here in Israel also don't know anything like that.
And did you speak to your family about your experiences?
No. No, my mother never wanted to speak about it.
She never wanted to.
She was very involved. She was working for the Jewish committee, and when she was home, she tried not to speak about it.
And when you got married and you had children, did you relate what happened to you to your children, or did they know you were also a survivor, that you?
For a long time, not. For a long time, daughter was maybe in high school maybe 12 years old. Before that, I never talked about it.
Is it because you didn't want to burden them, or you didn't want to scar
Yeah,
them?
because I saw there were some other kids whose parents were, and they talked about it all the time, and I didn't think it was good for the children. I mean, I didn't want to. I don't know. I had some friends who talked about it a lot. I didn't.
And how did they react when you told them, when they realized that you were hidden in a convent and that you went through the Shoah?
They were very interested. They read a lot about the war, Nazis. They're very much into it. Very much into it. Not all of them, I don't think so. No, they're okay.
And did you ever give talks at different Holocaust museums or at different events?
No, I didn't talk. I didn't feel my English was good enough. I was French. I was asked a few times. I didn't want to talk.
So Jacqueline, if I could just ask, because your story is, it's unbelievable, really.
There's so many like it.
No, but it's really something, there are many stories where the parents can't get their children back, and they didn't want to get back, and it was...
There were many stories like that. My mother worked for the Jewish Committee, and there were many stories like that where the children were brought to a Christian family by the parents. The parents got killed, the grandparents wanted the children back, and they wouldn't give them back to them, only to the person who brought them. There were many, many cases. The person who brought them had to pick them up, and sometimes they were killed. So we have many Jewish children who became Catholic. They don't even know they were born Jewish.
It's true.
I mean, in Belgium, probably in France also. And in Holland also.
And when did you come to Israel?
When did I come to Israel?
Is it quite a few years ago?
Hmm?
Is it a few years ago that you came?
Oh no, I'm here almost 20 years.
20 years. And you happy you made the move?
Oh yeah.
You feel at home?
My children came here first. I lived in Baltimore. I came to join my children. I came when my last child went to Israel. They went to Israel before me.
And Jacqueline, if I can ask, what message do you impart to your children and grandchildren and to the future generations? Because you witnessed amazing cataclysmic events in Jewish history, the Shoah, the birth of the State of Israel, being hidden, a survivor.
You always have faith in God. I don't have any message. I hope it will never happen again.
That's very important. And to have faith in Hashem. You always had faith in Hashem all your life?
Yeah.
And can I ask?
I'm strictly religious still.
And your brothers also remained...
Not as religious as I am.
But they remain connected, very connected.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, one of my brothers lives here in Israel. Both of my brothers. One lived in America and died in America.
So Jacqueline, I'm so grateful to you. I just want to thank. Your message is really it's wonderful to.
Who sent you here?
We have your very good friend, but Jacqueline, I'm so grateful to you, and it's been the greatest honor and privilege. And you should just have nachas from your family.
Amen.
And keep just well, and all of Hashem's blessings, and
Thank
really
you.
are
Thank
so
you.
appreciated. And it's remarkable. It's incredible, your story. It's just
There's
amazing.
so many like it.
No, you're very
Oh my
special.
God.
Thank you so much. And you should just be well and gesund, and just have nachas from your children and
I
grandchildren.
do. Thank God. Thank God.
And keep well. And thank you so very much.
Thank you.
So Jacqueline, this is a very special picture of you with your grandparents and your two brothers, and you sitting, and this is after the war in Brussels.
Right.
And here's a picture
Of my father's mother,
of father's mother.
who died over 100 years ago.
And over here, this is a picture of
My father.
your father, and this is your mother. And here's your parents with,
My grandfather, my mother's father.
and here's a picture of your grandparents.
Yeah.
It's wonderful that you have these pictures.
Yeah.
And that's with this picture. Wow.
This lady died very young after giving birth to 8 children.
8 children. So Jacqueline, this is a picture of your late husband,
Yeah.
Gerhard, and he changed his name to
Gerald.
Gerald. Oh, it's a beautiful picture. And when was this picture taken?
I don't know. Maybe when he was in yeshiva in England. I don't know.
So how did he came from Germany? He was born in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And how did he survive the war?
Well, he was, I think, 12 when he left Germany, or 11 and a half. And somehow he got to England and they put him in an orphan home. And I think they were all orphans. And they were all sent to yeshiva, that's all I know.
And he studied in yeshiva in England.
Yeah, he was there for 4 years, 6 years.
Do you know which yeshiva he went to?
No, I don't know the name. One of those real Haredi places.
It could have been in Gateshead. It could have been in Gateshead, in the north.
No,
But he studied in yeshiva, and then
it was in London.
It was in London. And then when did he come to America?
I think before me, maybe in 47.
And you met in America.
I met him in, yeah.
And did he have any family that survived the Shoah?
Yes, he had a brother who was 5 years in concentration camp and who came out. And he had another brother, I don't know where he was during the war, who also survived. He had a sister who had married to South Bend, Indiana, and of course she survived.
But his parents...
His parents and a set of twins got killed.
They got killed.
The younger children they didn't send away.
Was he sent on the kinder transport?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
And how many years were you married?
61.
That's incredible, sure. It's wonderful. It must have been a very special man, your husband.
He was. And a very successful man. He was also a chazan, a cantor in a congregation.
Was this in Baltimore?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's amazing.
Yeah, he had a beautiful voice, and he went to cantorial school in New York.
And did he speak about his parents and the loss and going through the Shoah and what they went through?
Yes, but not that much. He was 11 years old, so with time, you know. And his brother and sister were 2 years younger. He did talk about them.
Well, Jacqueline, thank you so much. I so appreciate it. But you have very good memories. You have wonderful memories.
Yeah, I'm lucky that I can remember.
It's wonderful.
I mean, you know, what else is there in life when you get old like this?
No, you're amazing.
I'm almost 90, so
well, you're incredible.
Memories is what make life.
I'd may Vesrim in good health and Mazal and Bracha. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is a picture of your husband's. Here's your husband, and these are the twins and his sister.
And a brother.
And a brother, and the lady who looked after. And here's a picture, another picture, and your husband's the one with the Magen David.
Yeah.
And the twins are in this picture as well.
Yeah.
And here they were in a camp.
Yeah, summer camp.
A summer camp in Germany, Miss Bobby.
This and this are the twins. The two blonde ones.
And these pictures?
My husband's father.
This is your wedding photo?
Yeah.
When were you married? In which?
1956. Where? In New York.
Must have been a very joyous occasion.
Yes, it was. Every wedding is a joyous occasion. Doris and Fred.
And this is Doris and Fred. This is Jerry's sister.
Yeah.
Your husband's sister. And they gave this on your husband's 90th birthday. Mazel Tov, Uncle Jerry. And this is your husband's sister.
Yeah.
On his 90th birthday.
I guess the children
Oh, that's lovely.
must have made the frame and gave it to
beautiful.
my husband for his birthday.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much.